Welcome everyone. We're here today to talk about handgun selection. Too often folks choose the wrong handgun based on bad advice from their uncle, brother, sister, nephew, or the guy behind the counter. It's not necessarily their fault. They're going off what traditional training and access to information promotes. I am a retired Navy SEAL. I've been teaching for 30 years, and we choose handguns and features based on our experiences in combat under great stress. And for that reason, what I recommend to you is a semi-automatic handgun with a double action trigger. Alternatively, a revolver is also a good choice. The negative thing about a revolver, they're not as accurate at distance and they have less capacity, but it is a great choice. The semi-automatic double action, again, has greater capacity. That double action trigger, and I know most of you might not understand what that means. For those of you who don't understand the general features of handguns, and I don't blame you, there's hundreds of manufacturers and all kinds of crazy features coming out. But we're going to offer a handgun foundation course that's going to be available online, and we're going to get into the details for you, and that will hopefully clarify all that. The mechanics associated with using a handgun in an emergency need to be automatic. You don't have time to think about what you're going to do. Whatever it is you do has to automatically come online in order to really protect you and your loved one. The problem with single action is they oftentimes come with a safety. And a lot of you will hear somebody tell you have to have a safety on your gun. I disagree completely. Having a safety means the first thing you need to do is take it off. And in an emergency situation, your fine motor skills are the first thing to leave you, and your gross motor skills are the things that remain. What that boils down to is you're not going to take the safety off. There's no shortage of videos showing people who present a firearm in an emergency or a stressful situation, and you see them fail to activate the trigger because the safety's on. So when you go to finally purchase a handgun, you're going to talk about features, caliber, and size. You want to keep the features to a minimum. Avoid the gimmicky features such as the chamber loaded indicators, little red indicators, the magazine actuated firing pins, anything of that nature. There are some safety features that are good though. Most of them have a trigger safety. This is generally what we refer to as a drop safety, meaning if you drop the weapon, if that isn't activated, it won't go off. That's good. You want to keep these features to a minimum. The more features that are added, the more mechanical failures that are possible. Definitely avoid that. Keep it simple, stupid, what we like to say. So it should feel good in your hand. There's enough different types of well-made handguns and brands that you should find something that feels comfortable in your hand. Avoid something small. The smaller handguns tend to kick harder because they have less weight. So while it's more convenient to carry and easier to carry or maybe conceal, you're going to have to compromise that with a bigger kick. You need to go try it at the range a few times, not just one time, at least 3 times. Go and shoot a particular gun before you decide that's the one you're going to use. And with that said, when you do access our handgun foundation, you're going to find out that it takes 3,000 to 5,000 times of doing something perfectly before you're ready to use it under stress. It sounds like a lot. With simulation training and the training tools that we recommend, it's actually attainable. Live fire, it's not. I'm sorry, but traditional methodology for training folks with live fire is not effective. In fact, actually it sets you up for failure. It gives you a false sense of confidence. What do I mean by that? Is when you're at the range, if there's a target 7 to 10 feet in front of you, with that X, if you can't hit the X every time you pull the trigger, you don't know how to shoot at level 1. You're at the range, there's no stress, it's good light, there's one target standing still. Until you can hit that X every time, you're not ready to move on. But once you do, that's level 1. Now the learning can begin, the dynamics of truly utilizing a firearm for personal protection, which includes drawing from a holster, changing magazines if necessary, engaging multiple targets, different lighting, your loved ones around you. All these factors come into play, and if your mechanics and your mindset aren't in automatic, you're set yourself up for failure. Unless you have access to ranges and resources that enable you to train continuously thousands of times where you're automatically coming off and that thumb is going to remove that safety. And another aspect of that is folks don't often think of non-standard positions, meaning what do you do if you're in a seated position and you draw that handgun? So to go and remove that handgun, draw and present and remove that safety presents another mechanical complexity that you don't really want to have to deal with. Who knows what the situation might be? The person might be in close proximity. Your wrist might be sore that day, who knows what, but why add something to overcome if it's not necessary? Again, that double action trigger will be safe enough, and that's why we recommend that. So to recap what we're talking about, you want to get a semi-automatic with a double action trigger. You need to do repetitive, perfect practice. Perfect practice makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. Whatever it is you do while shooting your handgun is exactly what you're going to do in a real situation. It's hard for people to understand that concept and how detrimental it can be if you don't do it correctly. There's some scientific research on shootings and police training, and it's just been proven. Traditional training methodology is ineffective. It does not set you up for success. Because live fire training is, number one, unattainable, number two, not feasible for truly developing good skills because it's not safe, it's expensive. This is why I've chosen simulation to train my students and customers. Without exception, they can achieve the mechanics that set them up for success, and they realize that. You can look at our testimonials from folks who've been carrying for 20, 30 years after going through our detailed dynamic training. They realize how much more effective it is and what they didn't know. And through simulation, we can expose you to that and set you up with confidence and hopefully for success if you ever have to use your firearm.